Okay. That'll be a yes. Right, let's go. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to episode number 438 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. In this week's show, one airline is gearing up to burn off some serious fat and oil, but no exercise is required. A Middle East carrier is getting rather posh, and one of the world's most iconic 747s is being retired. In the military this week, the US Army finally picks the Bell V-280 to replace its fleet and Black Hawks, and the US Congress allows the US Air Force to diverse into some aging A-10 Warthogs. And with me, not joining me this week, is Matt Smith. He's busy sunning himself in some, he's enjoying himself at a wine fest somewhere. But Nev, you are with me this week, aren't you?
I am, yes. Welcome one and all. Hope everybody is well. It's a bit cold out there still. It was -10 yesterday morning, which was not what we wanted at all, but warming up gradually. It's going to be a bit nicer, I think, later in the weekend. But what sort of week have you had, matey?
It's been a busy week. I'm not going to lie, Nev. I've probably nearly beaten my record of miles covered in 1 week. I think I've probably pushed past the 1,500 miles of driving this week. Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. Any flying with you this week?
No, which I'm pleased about, really, because it was our Christmas party yesterday down on the south coast in Brighton. So although I didn't overdo it, I've done a lot of driving in the last 2 days, and I'm a bit tired, if I'm honest with you. But apart from that, all good, matey. Thank you very much. Yes.
Good. So, Nev, we've got loads of stuff to get through on the show this week, haven't we? But we've got the answers to the competition that we set last week, haven't we? With the book.
Have you got your hat at the ready to draw out?
I've got my hat at the ready, to draw some names out.
Well, I've got the book here, so this is what we're giving away as the prize. It's a signed copy of Nat Boys by Rick Peacock Edwards and Tom Eales. It's the interview that Nick did for us a few weeks ago. Played out the last parts the other day. And looking forward to giving that away. And I should put it in the post to the name that Carlos draws out of the hat later on.
Are we going to risk Royal Mail, Nev?
Yes. As long as no one's in a rush. That's all I would say.
Exactly, I know.
Anyway.
We've got loads of people joining us in the YouTube chat room this evening. I'm going to go through the names who have joined us this evening. Quite a few who are in there very early on this evening, I will say. Captain Cruz, hello to you. Lee Davies. We've got Mazus is in there as well. Hello to you, Mazus. Bill is in there. Masha, hello to you, Masha. Captain Cruz, Lee Davies. Jan is in there. Hello to you, Jan. Hope you're keeping warm where you are, because it's blinking cold here. Ian is in there as well. Hello to you, Ian. Captain Ridiculous Wits, good to see you back in the chat room as well. this week. Our man Micah is also in there, and also Sturman. Hello to you, Sturman. Good to see you in there this week. In the chat room. Welcome to everyone who has tuned in this evening. Don't forget, if you are listening to us as an audio show, don't forget to check out us on YouTube. Search for us Plain Talking UK. You'll find us on YouTube. Click that subscribe and that bell icon to be notified when we are live and doing a show just like we are now. So
the Air Stig is also in the chat room, I notice.
Oh, and the Air Stig as well. Hello to you, Air Stig. How are you? Hope he's well. It's safe to say, actually, Nev, before we start the commercial news, that there's been quite the rush on grey mugs.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
with some people even on ordering 3 at once.
Gosh, well, I hope the production department can keep up.
Yeah, so do I. I do as well. There's some being sent out. I saw today that Jonathan Warner has sent his order through for a grey mug, so hopefully they'll arrive before Christmas for our UK listeners anyway, for those of you who have ordered. But Nev, do you want to introduce the first part of the show?
Yes, well, of course, the first part of the show, as always, is the commercial news segment. So have you got the button ready, Carlos?
Yes, I'm ready.
Here we go.
Take your seats and fasten your seatbelts.
So, kicking off this week's first news story then, this comes to us from belfastlive.co.uk, and it's an airport I haven't flown from, Nev, so you might have flown from here. Belfast City Airport will introduce a new airline and a new destination to its operations in 2023. So, those of you in the UK living in or near Belfast, good news. German flag carrier Lufthansa, which is one of Europe's largest airlines, is entering the Northern Irish market for the first time and will operate flights from Belfast City Airport to Germany. From April the 23rd next year, customers in Northern Ireland will be able to fly to Frankfurt, the only direct air link between Northern Ireland and Germany. Katie Best, commercial director at Belfast City Airport, commented, attracting an airline such as Lufthansa to Northern Ireland that will provide not only a route from the region to Germany is a major win, not only for the airport but for the wider tourism and business industry. Flights to Frankfurt with Lufthansa will operate up to 4 times a week, giving both leisure and business passengers exceptional choice and convenience when travelling to the global hub. This new non-stop connection will bring Northern Ireland much closer to Frankfurt and the heart of Western Europe, connecting passengers that will enjoy a convenient and full service connection beyond the hub to the vast network of over 200 destinations in summer 2023. Exports from Northern Ireland to Germany between 2021 and 2022 reached over £333 million, with significant growth in the transport, metal and meat industries. With nearly 4,000 German-born residents living in Northern Ireland, wow, I didn't know that. The new route will also deliver a much-needed path for visiting friends and family, something which does not currently exist in Northern Ireland. What do you think about this then, Nev?
Brilliant news. Very good news indeed. I mean, obviously, Frankfurt is a very good hub for Lufthansa as well. So you'll be able to fly from Belfast into Frankfurt and then go more or less anywhere in the world from there. That's a really good route, actually. You know, Belfast City Airport is not overly used, I have to say. I mean, it does operate some very good regional services to from the rest of the UK and to other parts of Europe as well. But this will be, I think, a huge boost. I think it's going to be a really, really good idea. It's not happening until April, though, is it? So,
yeah.
But no, I think that's good stuff. And I think to be able to go to a hub airport that's not Heathrow or Gatwick or Manchester, I think that'll be quite good, actually. Obviously, it'll take some business away from those airports, but it's just a more direct route as well, especially if you're flying into the heart of Europe, to either go within Europe or you want to go somewhere else. So, yeah, no, great idea. It's a nice airport, actually, as well, Belfast City. It's A little bit bumpy at times at this time of year, with the weather being as it is, because it's right in the middle of the shipyard there. No, it's a good airport and very convenient. It's just outside of the city. It's got very good connectivity and what have you. So, yeah,
I'm guessing they'll probably use the 320s, Nev, on this route.
Yes, they probably will. Yes, you can get a 320 in and out of there. So as long as you, as Captain Al would say, as long as you don't pussyfoot around when you're landing, you've got to get it down and get it stopped at that airport.
Yeah, because the Lufthansa they're all Airbus, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
The short haul fleet.
And they've also got a fleet of Embraers as well, so they might even use the 190s perhaps, or the 175s, whatever they've got. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah, should be good.
Just looking at Ian, says that it'd be nice to have a transatlantic flight from Belfast. They could dodge some of the taxes.
Well, yes, that would have to come out of Belfast Aldergrove, the international airport, to do that, because the runway is just simply not long enough at City Airport to do that kind of sector. I wouldn't have thought that would be quite tight. No, I mean, it's a shame that the international airport is not used more for stuff across the pond. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Now, Nev, you've got the next story, and when I saw this, I immediately thought this has got to be... I know we haven't got any BA stories this week, but this is a story especially for you.
Well, that's very nice, yes. This is on the, several websites, God Save the Points being one of them. It says that Emirates has secured exclusive rights to become the only airline in the world allowed to serve champagne made by Moet and Chandon, Veuve Clicquot or Dom Perignon until 2024 at the very earliest. Well, in September, Emirates secured an exclusive deal with the French magnate luxury brand conglomerate LVMH, which makes the Dubai-based carrier the only airline in the sky with the right to serve Veuve, Moet or Dom Perignon until 2024. A month later, Singapore Airlines announced that it was being forced to drop Dom Perignon from its own champagne lineup. And although Singapore Airlines didn't say why, it soon became apparent that the reason was that Emirates had secured exclusive rights. 2003 Dom Perignon P2 is served in first class across the entire Emirates route network, whilst Veuve Clicquot is a business class champagne served on routes to the Americas, UK and Europe. Meanwhile, Moet and Chandon is reserved as a business class champagne on flights to Africa, the Middle East and the Asia-Pacific region, which includes Australia and New Zealand. Economy class passengers can also purchase a smaller bottle of Moet and Chandon champagne, and there's a Moet and Chandon champagne lounge in the airline's sprawling business class lounge at its Dubai hub. Having secured exclusive rights for the next 2 years, Emirates says that Moet and Chandon has been available on board for more than 30 years, almost the lifespan of the airline itself. Now, I didn't know, actually, that the providers of this champagne or anything, actually, had exclusive arrangements with certain airlines. It just didn't even cross my mind that that was a thing. But if you can just imagine that a 2012 Dom Perignon retails for around $250 per bottle, and 2003 Dom Perignon P2 retails for well over $400 a bottle, and that's if you can even find it, because it's quite rare. I'm speaking as though I drink this stuff all the time, but luckily our excellent researcher John has been helping us out with some of those figures there. But did you know that, Carlos, that there was exclusivity to be had on various types of drink?
Do you know what? I didn't know. Obviously, no. I've flown with you a few times with BA, obviously in the old biz class, but I don't think we had any champagne at that time. Although, if we would have known that would have been our last flight on a 747 back in Dubai, yeah. I think we'd have probably have at least opted for a glass.
If only I'd thought to have clicked my fingers, and said, any chance of any Dom Perignon P2 2003? I don't know. I just didn't think about it.
Oh, I know. Back in those days, that was such a good time. That was, Nev. Next story. comes to us from the Flight Global, actually, and this is quite interesting. This came out this week. Virgin Atlantic are going to carry out a pioneering net zero transatlantic flight. Now, Virgin Atlantic is to conduct the transatlantic flight next year using a Boeing 787 powered solely by sustainable fuel under a UK government-funded initiative. The aircraft will operate from London Heathrow to New York JFK, a service which the government is billing as the world's first net zero transatlantic flight. Virgin 787 will be a Rolls-Royce Trent 1000 equipped airframe. The engine manufacturer is part of a consortium associated with the flight, along with Boeing, Pratt & Whitney Canada, and a number of universities and institutes. The flight will use sustainable fuel sourced mainly from waste oils and fats, with the net zero target achieved by supplementary use of biochar credits. Biochar is a carbon ash material which can be used for carbon capture. The challenge recognises critical roles, they said, with sustainable fuel that has to play in decarbonising aviation and the urgent collective action needed to scale production, says Virgin Atlantic's chief Shai Weiss. The research and results will be a huge step in fast-tracking sustainable fuel across the aviation industry. The aircraft are currently certified to use a maximum of 50% blend of conventional and sustainable fuel. Fuel for the 787 flight will, however, be entirely sustainable, demonstrating the potential for decarbonising long-haul sectors. Rolls-Royce head of sustainability, Rachel Everard, said the company aims to have proven that its entire Trent and business jet engine lines can be flown with 100% sustainable fuel by the end of next year. The government intends to bring in a mandate requiring at least 10% of jet fuel to contain the sustainable resources by 2030. Virgin Atlantic's consortium for the next net zero flight includes Imperial College London, the University of Sheffield, and the Rocky Mountain Institute and ICF. What do you think, Nev? Bit of green going on here.
Well, it's all the thing, isn't it? Boxes have to be ticked, and this is. I mean, I think the aviation industry generally has been trying to, probably harder than some of the other industries, to get more sustainable operations. And they've already got a lot quieter operations now in terms of the high bypass jets and the next generation engines, and this is just another step forward, isn't it? To try and making the whole thing a bit more sustainable. And it's one of those things, isn't it? It takes the amount of fuel that it does to get from one place to another. But of course, with the 787s, A350s, the 737 Maxes, I mean, the fuel saving on these aircraft now compared to just perhaps 10 or 15 years ago is really substantial. So I think that this is obviously the next stage, and all the manufacturers are working really hard to try and find improved solutions in terms of the sustainability of it.
I don't know how much you know about this, Nev, but I'm just wondering to myself: is this a case of that the fuel tanks will just be totally filled with fat and oil?
I don't think that's quite what they're saying here. I think what Rolls-Royce is saying is that the Trent series of engines will be able to be flown with 100% sustainable fuel by the end of next year. Now, it's obviously a question of how they are doing that, and there's probably awful lot of stuff that's not mentioned in that press release about how they're going to go about it. But I don't think we'll be flying with just fat and oil for some time. Although maybe, hopefully, the weight I can shed in the new year may contribute to that, perhaps. And that actually may make it more sustainable anyway, because I will be not weighing as much, hopefully. Another New Year's resolution.
I just have visions, Nev, of going to Heathrow for a flight, or standing on a flight line somewhere and just having that glorious smell of, fish and chips or sausage and chips. But
well, I wouldn't mind that, I must say. Although at 6:30 in the morning, is that a good thing?
Now, Nev, you've got the next story, and it's about one of our favourite aircraft, and hopefully there'll be a replacement one day.
Yeah, well, this is on flightglobal.com. And it says that United Airlines faces an imperfect fleet trade-off in the coming years due to the lack of new production aircraft with capabilities comparable to the airline's aging Boeing 757-300s. That's according to the carrier's Chief Commercial Officer, Andrew Nosella, who says market conditions have forced United to plan to replace its 757s with 737 MAX 10s and Airbus A321neos. The carrier said it will retire its 757s during this decade. That's not a trade we're excited to make, he said on the 13th of December. He spoke in North Charleston, South Carolina, after an event marking United's order for another 100 737 MAXs and 100 787s. Nosella says that those jets will enable United to embark on significant further expansion. Last month, Boeing made it clear it will not develop a new narrow-body aircraft anytime soon, and the news came after Boeing had been studying designs that included a 757 replacement, known in the industry as the new mid-market airplane. Some airline executives have been urging Boeing to develop the jet, saying that the other replacement options, which is, as mentioned before, the A321neos and 737 MAX 10s, lack the 757's capabilities. There is nothing coming, says United's Nosilla. The airline operates 32 757-200s and 21 757-300s. He's also previously said that the 757-300s in particular have performance characteristics unmatched by the new generation aircraft. The type has range exceeding 3,000 nautical miles and in United's configuration carries 234 seats. The smaller 757-200 has more range but fewer seats, so 169 and 176 in United's two configurations, according to its website. The Boeing 737 MAX 10 has 3,300 nautical miles of range and can carry 188 to 204 passengers. A321neos carry about 190 passengers, and Airbus says its in development A321 XLR variant will have 4,700 nautical miles of range. Nosella also discussed United's plan to retire the Bombardier CRJ 200s and Embraer 145s in the coming years, but like those 757s, those types also lack new build replacements. But Nosella said airport constraints, not lack of replacements, will make 50-seat aircraft largely unfeasible after 2030. For a hub like Newark or San Francisco or Chicago, it seems difficult to imagine, he said. There's just not enough gates and runways being built in our country, particularly in those very congested hubs. Exceptions do exist, and Nosella expects United will, for a very long time, fly some ERJ 145s on government subsidised routes. Also, United has enough space at its Houston and Denver hubs to accommodate smaller aircraft, he notes. United's partners currently operate up to 130 CRJ 200s and 60 Embraer 145s under the United Express banner. Nosella does not, however, expect that retiring 50-seat jets will force United to cut many cities from its network, saying that the airline will replace the regional jets with larger aircraft like the E175s and 737s. Maybe there's one or two more to go, he said, but for the most part, the cities we serve in 2026 and 2030 are in fact the cities we serve today. Well, that's a shame, isn't it? Because we all like a 757.
Yeah, I'm surprised, Nev, all this time, because obviously I think the competitor size aircraft from Airbus would probably be the 321. I think you could agree.
Yeah.
And I think Boeing brought the MAX. I think it's the MAX. Is the MAX 10 comparable to the carrying? I think it is the MAX 10. Either the MAX 9 or the MAX 10 is the same, a similar carrying capacity to the 75. But there just has never been. Boeing has never. Well, there's nothing ever come out from a manufacturer to compete with what the Boeing 75 was.
Yeah, Matt doesn't want to hear this, obviously, because it's not his favourite aircraft. But isn't the? I mean, the 757 was such a versatile aircraft. You know, in its ETOPS configuration, it could do the North Atlantic routes. In the domestic configurations, it did very well in the UK for British Airways, serving the shuttle routes, and actually quite a decent range as well. So Basic United's saying that they don't have a real direct replacement for it. Although I do note, actually, I was surprised to hear this or to read this, that the A321 XLR variant has got a range of 4,700 nautical miles, which is very good indeed, isn't it? So again, all down to the new engines and some more better aero performance, I presume, as well from the aircraft.
Captain Ridiculous Wits in the chat room says, let's just bring jumbo jets back and make them zero emissions, powered by chicken grease, corn oil. This way we don't need any small planes. Yes, I see that. Also, Bill in the chat room says they need a Max 10 XLR.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a good one, actually, yeah. Lee Davis' first plane that he flew on was a 757. And one of my most memorable experiences, and when I get round to it one day, I will get the VHS cassette out of the loft and convert it to digital. But one of my biggest memories of flying on the 75 was jump seat on an Air 2000 757 coming into Gatwick at night, and I will hope I'm going to try and get that video down out of the loft at some point at home and try and find someone who can convert that to digital, hopefully. But that was a fantastic experience on there, and obviously BA Nev used to fly the 75 as well.
Very much so on the shuttle routes, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Belfast, Manchester, and also they ran them occasionally to places like Copenhagen and Stockholm as well. I'm sure I've been on a 757 to either one of those cities in the past, back in the day, but they were a very popular aircraft for the shuttle routes, definitely the domestic ones. But as I said, in the ETOPS configuration, which BA never flew them as ETOPS aircraft, but they did with the 76. But yeah, of course, it can go across the pond, as Matt will tell us, won't he?
Like Micah says in the chat room, when Matt had that flight in the 75, he was feeling ill, and I think it wasn't the best experience to have when you're ill, especially when you're doing a long haul flight across the pond on the 75. But
the only disadvantage for me, I don't know whether it's just my ears and the way they work, but every single time I descended from the cruising flight level, I really had problems in clearing my ears on a 757, and on a couple of occasions I couldn't clear them at all, and my ears were blocked for 2 days. In fact, it wasn't until I went back up in the air and the aircraft was repressurized, a couple of days later, that I actually got my hearing back properly. But I've always had a problem it's only been on BA 75s, I have to say, where I don't know whether the way the pressurization works is slightly different perhaps, or is a bit hasty, but certainly I've always had problems clearing my ears properly when descending in a 757. That said, I'll take that any day because of those lovely Rolls-Royce engines and the sound that they make when you take off. A seriously overpowered aircraft, that is.
Yeah. But definitely a winner for Boeing. They done well out of the 75.
Oh
yeah. Next story is coming to us from the airlineratings.com. Nice video with this one, Nev, actually. And the headline, landing a Boeing 747 blind in fog and snow. So Boeing, a 747 captain, Christian van Heist, has taken a stunning video of an automatic landing in blinding fog and snow. And Christian takes up the story. He says, latest weather, he said, update, recent snowfall. Clouds were reported scattered at 200 feet and broken at 300 feet. Visibility 2,000 metres. Not quite alarming yet, he said, but it calls for a Cat 3 landing anyway. He said goodbye to the stars a few minutes ago and descending through the clouds. Instruments telling me we're still heading towards the runway. My speed, altitude as predicted, speed brake armed, landing gear down, and flaps 30. The mist ahead seems to brighten up more and more, then suddenly a line of glowing dots appears in the middle and straight ahead approach lights in sight. We continue towards the runway. The runway looks like a giant glowing Christmas tree, he says. And I'm just going to pop that video on actually. And so comes Santa's 4-engine sleigh safely down to the ground, delivering another load of presents and goods. So for these of you watching the YouTube feed, you'll see the video.
Approach lights. Approaching minimums. Check. Minimums. 30, 20, 10.
I wonder what John Jester would make of that, Nev.
Oh, well, yes, absolutely. Just shows you that the decision height's, 50 feet, I think, there, even though they had the approach lights in view before that. But, yeah, impressive stuff, isn't it? And, yeah, I mean, automatic landings, in large commercial jets, in any form of aircraft, actually, are very impressive, aren't they? That was another good example of one. It certainly enables, as we all know, aircraft to get in and out of airports that were previously just not possible to do, as long as the crew are fully qualified and the aircraft is certified and the runway and the airport is certified to do so as well, of course. Impressive.
If you want to follow him, he's on YouTube and on Instagram actually as well. You can follow him on Instagram at JPC Van Heist. That's JPC Van HEIJST. He's got some great videos on Instagram if you follow him. I've started following him this week on there. So Nev, over to you for the next story. And this is one of those aircraft, Nev, where, you've got the bucket list of aircraft that you'd love to go up and see. I would love to see this aircraft up close.
Yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? This is on the aeroexplorer.com. It says that NASA has used a specially modified Boeing 747 SP for scientific research since 2014. The Stratospheric Observatory for Infrared Astronomy Program, or SOFIA, has used this former Pan American Airways bird for hundreds of missions since its arrival at NASA 8 years ago. SOFIA's purpose was as an airborne telescope, enabling astronomers to study the solar system with just 1% of the Earth's infrared blocking atmosphere. Cruising at 38,000 feet to 45,000 feet, it soared above 99% of this atmosphere, making it far more ideal than a ground-based telescope. The SOFIA mission has a powerful potential to inspire, from its discoveries about the unknown in our universe to the engineering achievements that broke new ground to the international cooperation that made it all possible, says Paul Hertz, Senior Advisor for the Scientific Mission Directorate at NASA, headquarters in Washington, D.C. With this legendary aircraft living such a fulfilling life, it is no surprise that so many people want to share the 747 SP's legacy with generations to come. The best way to do that is by giving the aircraft to a museum. So the Pima Air and Space Museum in Tucson, Arizona, will be a fantastic home for the science bird. From generation to generation, this aircraft will spread light and share history on one of the most compelling programs of the 21st century. To determine a new home for the plane after the end of the mission, NASA followed regulations for the disposition of excess government equipment. Pima, one of the world's largest aerospace museums, is developing plans for when and how the SOFIA aircraft will eventually be on display to the public, read a press release from NASA on Thursday. Pima Air and Space Museum is one of the largest air museums with a vast variety of aircraft, one of which will soon be the SOFIA. Along with 6 hangars, 80 acres of outdoor display grounds, and more than 425 aircraft from around the world, Pima also has its own restoration facility where incoming aircraft like Sophia are prepared for museum immortalisation after their arrival, read the press release from NASA. Sophia took off for the last time on December the 13th, just gone, to set sail to a new home and final resting place for the aircraft. Although this marks the end of an era, this also opens up the door to a new one by enabling people from around the world to experience the beauty up close. So some specs on the airframe itself. It was manufacturer serial number 21441 and the registration was November 747 November Alpha. It was a 747 SP21 and its first flight was on the 25th of April 1977, which makes it just over 45 and a half years old. And it's got 4 Pratt & Whitney JT9D7A engines. And it was used by Pan Am from its delivery date up until 1986, when United Airlines started flying it, and then from 1997 it was used by NASA. So I still think the 747 SP looks just out of proportion, don't you think? You know, to actually see one. Well, I've only ever seen one in the flesh. I think once at Heathrow many years ago, but there's just so. I don't know how many are flying now, but it's just such a rare aircraft to see. But it just looks a bit odd, don't you think?
Yeah, if you remember, Nev, Lockheed done the same with the TriStar when they made the 500 series, the Dash 500.
Yeah.
And they got the original TriStar and chopped a huge piece off the back and shortened the fuselage to make the 500 series, which was used by Pan Am and BA, and that looked strange. If you saw that, you know, on the a tarmac, it would look completely strange compared to a standard normal, you know, Dash 200 or a 300 series TriStar. But yeah, the SP
3 are still flying, according to John. He says that there are the 3 still in current service.
Yeah.
Not many,
Never saw a lot of these. I think, Nev, were used as VIP transports, weren't they?
They were, weren't
SPs,
they? Yes.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next story, and here we go. This is coming to us from Flight Radar 24, and this is all about the A321XLR. They're doing a 13-hour test flight. Airbus took up its prototype A321XLR on a 13-hour test flight this week, covering 9 separate countries and drawing a large XLR in the sky over the Bay of Biscay. While the flight and special sky art was exciting to follow on Flight Radar 24, the crew were busy monitoring the aircraft systems for this flight in particular. The pilots and flight test engineers were checking the unique modifications to the A321's fuel system performed as it should during the extended flight. And to further extend the range of the A321 from the A321LR's 7,400 kilometres to 8,700 kilometres for the A321XLR, Airbus added a permanent rear centre fuel tank integrated directly into the fuselage. It's this range that truly sets the XLR in rare air, bringing single-aisle economics to routes that were previously only serviceable wide-bodied aircraft like the 330s or 787s. As lead flight test engineer, Jim Fawcett explained for fuel tanks, they've made some modifications on the aircraft and it was important to check those were working correctly over the full weight envelope of the aircraft. I'm going to pop some pictures on for those of you watching in the world of YouTube here of these. Here we go. To accomplish a test, the A321XLR was fueled to a maximum capacity and flown all the way down to the minimum allowable fuel level before landing. This gave the I've lost my place here. This gave the team plenty of time and more than 13 hours in the air to study the fuel system, he reported. All of the transfers worked correctly and all of the indications to the crew were good during the flight. All of the transfer rates were normal and so it was very important for us to perform a flight with the aircraft. In addition to testing the actual operation of the fuel system over such long, flight engineers were validating the thermal model of the system within the A321 XLR. The air at cruising speed altitude is very cold, he said, regularly reaching temperatures of minus 60 degrees, blimey, or less. That affects the temperature of the aircraft and the fuel inside, he said. Ensuring the aircraft systems are designed to keep the fuel above critical temperatures is currently operating its important steps towards certification. With a 13-hour flight test, there's room for other activities, and Airbus took advantage of the time in the air to do a little skywriting. 90 minutes into the flight, the aircraft flew over the Bay of Biscay and drew a 500-kilometre wide, 150 kilometres tall XLR in the sky. Impressively, and unlike nearly all other pieces of sky art created by large transport aircraft, the Airbus pilots flew the entire drawing by hand. The entire XLR logo just took over 3 hours to complete at 27,000 feet. Blimey. For this test, the Airbus decided not to use the A321 XLR's ADS-B transponder. Instead, it broadcast only in Mode S mode. And the Mode S transponder, as some customers may not opt to include ADS-B when they take delivery. Fawcett says the long flight using Mode S only validates that the aircraft still works correctly and is well integrated into the air traffic control system. So what's next for the Airbus A321 XLR flight test program? Well, the A321 XLR is currently expected to enter service in 2024, ahead of certification in late 23 or early 24, and the flight test aircraft will have full scheduled system of checks. And in early 2023, Airbus will send the A321 XLR for cold weather testing, which will be the aircraft's first intercontinental flight. So what do you think about the XLR, Nev?
Nice. Well, as I say, I'm loving the whole range business and the low fuel burn and all the rest of it. I'm still a little bit sceptical about single-aisle aircraft on very long flights, but I'm sure the crew have got it all worked out. So I will need to experience this for myself, I think. So maybe I could try a 77 Max or something like that. I think JetBlue was staying in our hotel. Well, obviously not the whole company, but a crew that had flown into Gatwick was staying in our hotel in Brighton this morning. And so I think that single-aisle aircraft across the pond will be very interesting, but I think I need to try it out for myself. So if anyone is in the mood for a ticket that they could...
Just send Nev an email, podcast at planetalkinguk.com.
So I'm going to have to go, I'm going through the full range. So I'm obviously taking, well, not obviously, but I am taking an A380 for the first time to Dallas in February, and then coming back on a 787-9, I think, from Portland, the other Portland, Micah. And then, so that will give me sort of a really good experience of those two types of aircraft. Then I think I will have to try and find a reason or an excuse to take a single aisle aircraft. But I think this is very interesting, and Airbus have done a lot of work on this to get the range out of it and all the rest of it. So it's going to be impressive. No two ways about it. I know Captain Owl is a big fan of this as well. So let's see how they get on with the certification. And they're talking about just over a year. So yeah, in 2024 is what they're talking about, isn't it? To get it into service.
Micah makes a good point there, actually, Nev. He said, bear in mind the 707 and the DC-8 were a single-aisle aircraft that flew all over the world for years. That is, fair point.
It's a reasonable point. And Captain Cruz also says Concorde was only single-aisle. This is true, but there was only 100 passengers.
And it got there quicker.
And it was only 2 by 2, wasn't it? So, nonetheless, I'm prepared to give it a go.
Who's your 380 trip with next year, Nev?
That is with BA, obviously. from London Heathrow to Dallas Fort Worth. Then I've got a couple of days or a few days in Dallas working with our company. And then I've got an American Airlines A321 from Dallas to Portland, PDX, Oregon. I was a bit shocked how, when you're flying, especially in the US, you just lose all perspective, or I do anyway, of how far things are. And I thought, I'll just take a guess at what the flight time might be between Dallas and Portland. And I thought, it's 2.5 hours.
2.5, yeah.
Oh, no. 4 hours, 20 minutes.
What?
Is the answer. Yes. So
that's a flight. That's a flight down to Tenerife.
It is. So it's interesting, isn't it? And then coming back on a 787-9 with BA on the Dreamliner from Portland to Heathrow, because they've got a direct service now, which is nice. So yeah, I shall have to do a Nev's passenger experience, won't I?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Next one for you, Nev. And about an aircraft that, it's going the way of the 747, I think.
Well, it is, and it's the same old story, isn't it? Trying to get the four-engine aircraft out of the air for economy and fuel-saving reasons. It says on flightglobal.com that Lufthansa Group carrier Swiss International Airlines will take 5 Airbus A350-900 aircraft into its fleet from 2025, which will replace its ageing A340-300 fleet on long-haul routes. The Zurich-based carrier said on the 12th of December that the new aircraft will help Swiss substantially further improve its carbon emission credentials. We're very pleased to have achieved our turnaround after the coronavirus crisis and be back on a sound financial track, said Swiss Chief Executive Dieter Vranckx. With this planned substantial modernisation of our long-haul aircraft fleet, we are setting a vital course to sustainability and to maintain our competitive edge over the long term. The 5 aircraft are part of an order of 25 A350-900s placed by parent company Lufthansa Group in 2019, Swiss says. Our decision to acquire these aircraft is a clear commitment to further enhancing our sustainability of our flight operations, Vranckx added. Our new long-haul twin-jet will play a substantial part in achieving our ambitious climate goals. According to Assyrian Fleet's data, the airline currently operates 12 Boeing 777s, 11 A330s and 4 A340s for its long-haul operations. So with the A340 coming out of service now, that is going to be the last of multi-engine aircraft greater than 2 engines, isn't it?
Yeah, with the 340s, obviously there's not many 300s around now. No. Obviously the 600 was a more popular version, as Captain Nick would tell you, but I didn't realise that Swiss was still operating the Dash 300s, Nev.
Yes, and I've never, actually, I'm just trying to think, I've never been on an A340.
Neither have I.
I thought I might have gone on a Virgin once, or who else operated the 340 that I might have gone on? I can't remember, but anyway, so yeah, the likelihood of me getting on an A340 now is nil, I would imagine. So yeah, there we go.
It's a shame. It's a fantastic aircraft to see, especially the 600. When you see those 600s parked up, Nev, it's almost like they're like 16 miles long. The Dash 600s. They
are, aren't they? Yes, yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. And the A350-900, of course, great aircraft. I've flown on several with Finnair to Helsinki, which is it's just such comfortable. And it's so quiet. Well, you know what the 350-1000 was like, Carlos, when we went to the Dubai Air Show. That was impressive, wasn't it, with the BA folks? So, yeah, very nice.
Actually, John's just said in our production chat group here, John's just saying that the 300 was by far the most popular version of the A340, 218 produced, versus 97 produced of the Dash 600 version. Didn't realise that, Nev.
No, and I remember Captain Nick saying he was never a great fan of the A340-300, but when Virgin took on the Dash 600s, he said that was a far more grown-up aircraft with a far more, engine power and all the rest of it. So no, there will not be that many flying at this rate. Yeah.
So, moving on to the next story, and Flight Global, this one comes from for this. And, Boeing must have thought they'd, won the lottery this week. United Airlines hands over an order to Boeing for 100 787 Dreamliners and 100 737 MAX aircraft. So United Airlines this week has ordered 100 Boeing 787s and taken options to purchase 100 more in what it calls the largest ever wide-body order by a US carrier. In addition to the Chicago headquartered airline, it said on the 13th of December it had ordered another 100 737 MAX aircraft. That comprises of the conversion of 44 options to be delivered between 2024 and 2026, 56 additional orders for delivery between 2027 and 28. The orders are driven by United's aspiration to be the world's leading global airline and the flag carrier of the US, says Chief Executive Scott Kirby. The carrier expects to receive the new Dreamliners between 2024 and 2032, including other aircraft types. The airline expects to take delivery of around about 700 new aircraft by the end of 2032. In 2023, that will average out to 2 weekly, which will depart from, weekly, which will be more than 3 every week, United says. The 787s will replace United's aging 767s, which will depart from its. United now operates 65 787-8s, 38 787-9s and 16 787-10s. It did not provide a breakdown of the new order by variant. United also still has orders for 45 Airbus A350s. Executives say that the order remains unchanged, but the airline has agreed with Airbus to push back deliveries of these jets for several years. Lederman says the first of these will not arrive until 2030 at the earliest. The 787 and the A350 are both great aircraft, Kirby says, but we already have a large base of 787s, and in this world where we are trying to bring on 200 or 2,500 pilots per year and grow the airline, introducing a new fleet type slows that down dramatically. The right time for the 350 conversation versus the 787 conversation is when we're replacing the bulk of the 777s, which is not until the end of the decade, he says. So obviously this is good news for Boeing, but Christ, Nev, they can't keep up now.
Well, I know. I tell you what, it's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, these orders are coming in thick and fast for the new generation aircraft, the 787s and the 737 Maxes. But they're going to have to go some to produce these aircraft. And of course, inevitably, there's always a lag, and a considerable one, between actually getting the purchase order and delivering the aircraft. But this is they're really going to have to go some to deliver these. I think by 27 and 28 is what they're talking about in the article there. Interesting that I didn't realise that United also had orders for 45 Airbus A350s as well. That's, and they're talking about just pushing that back a little bit now until 2030. Well, I didn't actually realise that. No, I mean, I think inevitably that they have to, with the cost of fuel and maintenance generally, they've just got to start getting the older aircraft out now, the 76s and the 777s, which, as they said in the article, in some cases they will be 30 years old by the time that they finish. So, but having said all that, it's good news for the industry, isn't it?
Very much so, Nev. It wouldn't surprise me if these the old 76s they retire, Nev, and the 777s end up being BCFs, turning into Boeing converted freighters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, good news though, and well, it means jobs for everybody. That's the most important thing at the moment. That the airlines are wanting to invest and wanting to get back to the situation they were in late 2019, because with the hiatus on aviation because of the pandemic, as we keep saying. So it's good to see some more manufacturing and engineering going on.
Now, Nev, who's got the next story?
Well, I hope somebody else has, because, well, he's not here, is he? But I think Armando might be offering us some input here, which he doesn't normally do in the commercial news section, does he? He doesn't normally send in stuff here.
But he has this time.
He has, yeah.
Well, this story is something that not only have we been covering, but I think we're going to be covering for the next couple of years. This is really, as we've said on the show, the next evolution of flight, which is commercial supersonic aircraft. Now, Boom Supersonic, which is the leading company in this. This story is from simpleflying.com. This company is making the next supersonic aircraft, and it's really the furthest ahead. Aircraft is called the Overture. It's finally secured an engine maker to deliver some power plants for the aircraft. In fact, it has actually secured a consortium of 3, although none of them are really well known in the commercial aviation space. But announced this week at the Greensboro production site, which is actually just up the street, about 45 minutes. It is the home of its future manufacturing facilities. Boom revealed some plans to work with Florida Turbine Technologies, Standard Aero, and GE Additive, a unit of GE Aerospace, to develop the engines that it needs for the Overture. The engine being developed now has been dubbed the Symphony. It's described by the company as a new propulsion system designed and optimized for specifically the Overture. Now, Boom had actually faced being shut out by many of the world's largest engine manufacturers, with the likes of Pratt & Whitney, Rolls-Royce, GE Aviation, Honeywell, and Safran all saying publicly that they had no interest in developing engines for this supersonic jet. Nevertheless, Boom maintained that it would find and announce an engine maker before the end of 2022, and this week it did deliver on that promise. Now, these engine manufacturers, it's not Rolls-Royce, it's not Pratt & Whitney, but they do have a strong track record in propulsion technologies. Florida Turbine Technologies, or FTT, is based in Jupiter, Florida, and actually has offices all over the world. It's been around since 1988 as an engineering services firm, but actually it evolved into a turbo machinery designer and manufacturer, specializing in manufacturing and developing gas turbines for both military and commercial applications. Now, the company was bought out in March of 2019 by California-based Kratos Defense and Security Solutions. At the time, Kratos CEO Eric DeMarco noted that the acquisition was part of Kratos' goal to develop an advanced, affordable engine for a new class of hypersonic propulsion system. The arm of Kratos that FTT occupies so far has been working on high-performance jet engines for cruise missiles and unmanned aerial systems. So, although the Overture project will be a new venture for the company, it is not exactly going into unknown territory. Standard Aero, one of the second manufacturer, has a legacy dating back all the way to 1911, when it was founded as Standard Machine Works in Manitoba, Canada. It began life repairing, overhauling, and rebuilding engines for cars, trucks, and tractors. 1930s, it was actually transformed into an aero engine division and began rebuilding piston power plants, subsequently becoming authorized maintenance repair providers for Pratt & Whitney, de Havilland, and some other organizations. It actually began overhauling turbine engines in 1960 and has grown from there into a pretty big company. Now, at the present, Standard Aero doesn't make its own engines, but it does work on MRO for business, commercial, and military aviation. The firm is approved to provide services for CFM, International, Rolls-Royce, Safran, Pratt & Whitney, many other engine manufacturers, including some rotorcraft. Now, the third partner in this, GE Additive, is a metal additive manufacturing company and a subsidiary of GE Aviation. Metal additive manufacturing, also known as metal 3D printing, is using a heat source such as a laser or electron beam to heat metal into a wire form of sorts, and the molten metal is then formed into an object, just like you've seen the videos of 3D printing. Now, this sort of process offers exemplary design freedom with improved efficiency, most importantly for Boom, to increase the speed to market for stronger and lighter parts. Now, so far, the specifications for the engines The architecture is a twin-spool medium bypass turbofan engine with no afterburner, 35,000 pounds of thrust at takeoff, optimized for 100% sustainable aviation fuel, a single-stage fan designed for quiet operation, passively cooled high-pressure turbine, and an additive manufacturing for low weight, low part counts, and reduced assembly costs. And of course, certification has to be certified with the FAA and EASA Part 33 requirements. So along this, we know that there are now going to be 4 original concept designs for the Overture, pegged it as a twin jet. Then later it became a tri-jet. Most recent and final iteration of the design has an airplane as a 4-engine quad jet, I guess. 2-pod engines under each wing will be tasked with propelling the aircraft across the world at supersonic speeds. And that is all from statements from Boom Supersonic. Now, one of the things that I'm most looking forward to is as this development happens and the company begins to build their manufacturing facility just up the street, I am hoping to get a sneak peek at the Boom Overture and the Symphony engine, and maybe we can even get a exclusive interview.
Oh, thanks for that, Armando. As always, sterling work with great audio and visuals. But
Yes.
Nev, I think they should just bring back bring back Concorde.
You're going to hate
Dig
me
it
for
out.
saying this.
Go on.
You're going to hate me for saying this, and everybody in the chat room is just going to be cross. I'm not excited about this project in the slightest.
Really,
There.
Nev?
I've said it. Sorry. I just really just don't understand why this is a thing at the moment. I just do not understand it. It'll obviously be suitable for some people, and it will be. Well, how much will the tickets be? For example, how much will it cost? I mean, I know Concorde was a very expensive aircraft to buy tickets on and that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I mean, as time moves on, perhaps I will feel a little bit more excitement about it. But I just don't know, and I'm trying to see where we are today in 2022, nearly 23. The commercial benefits and the excitement I have to say I'm far more excited about the Faraday project that Neil Clufley and his team are doing. And that, those sort of 18, 19 seat regional operation stuff with the electric hybrid that he's talking about with his team, as we've spoken about so many times. I just find that a more interesting project. Now, we have to cover everything on this show. I realise that, but so let's see how it goes. But at the moment, I have got not much excitement about this project, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
I think it would be better if we all thought that this would actually happen. At least within our lifetime. But yeah, like you say, Nev, it's one of those.
Don't get me wrong. Obviously, the folks that are working on this project are absolutely committed to it, and they are extremely clever people. Obviously, I can't possibly compare myself to the quality of workmanship and engineering that these sort of people and design that these folks are into. But for me, it is not making sense at the moment. But maybe as the months and years roll on, maybe it will be. And I should be proved wrong yet again.
Now, Nev, we've talked on this show tonight about 6,000 hours worth of chat about, narrow-bodied, long-haul aircraft. So, well, just for a change, we'll end the commercial news segment with a story about, long-haul, short, narrow-bodied aircraft. Yeah,
this is on Virgin Australia's newsroom press release, and also on Simpleflying.com. It says that Virgin Australia has capped off a huge year announcing a new international route with a daily return Cairns to Tokyo Haneda service, which is going to be taking off on the 28th of June 2023. That's next year. The highly anticipated route, operating for the first time, is being launched in partnership with the Queensland Government and Cairns Airport through the Queensland Government's Attracting Aviation Investment Fund. When it takes off, the 3,638 nautical mile route will be the world's fourth largest by max aircraft. For context, that distance is equivalent to from Boston to Barcelona. Virgin Australia will inaugurate a one daily Cairns to Tokyo Haneda service on the 28th of June. It'll be the only airline on the brand new airport pair, although it'll compete daily against a once daily Jetstar 787-8 service to Tokyo Narita. According to Aero Routes, Virgin's schedule will be as follows, with all times local. Despite the MAX 8s cruising slower than the 787, Virgin's block time will be no more than 15 minutes longer. So from Cairns to Tokyo Haneda, that'll be the VA77. These are local times here, taking off at 1:15 in the afternoon and arriving at 8 o'clock in the evening. That's a 7-hour, 45-minute block time. And on the return route, Tokyo Haneda back to Cairns on the VA78, taking off at 10:15 in the evening, then arriving at 6:15 in the morning the following day. That's got a block time of 7 hours and 30 minutes, which is, impressive, I have to say. So I wonder, well, clearly that once again that there is a market for this route, isn't there? And will people prefer the 737 MAX to a 787-8? I know what I would prefer, but again, I've not been on a 737 MAX, so
no,
I can't criticise it before I've been on one.
Nor have I, though, Nev. To be fair, I've not been on the MAX yet. Not had the chance to fly any. I mean, obviously in Europe with Ryanair using the MAX now quite heavily on their routes. I know TUI as well. They're using the MAX. I don't think TUI are using it out of Norwich yet, though, on some of their seasonal summer routes. But I know that TUI are definitely using the MAX quite heavily. But apart from that, Nev, airlines you could jump on.
Also thanks to our chum Grant McCarran from Down Under for bringing this story to our attention as well, of course.
Yes, cheers. Cheers, Grant.
Yeah.
Very kind of you.
Good job there. So, but this is going to be a theme, I think, isn't it, of these long haul sectors, especially from Australia and New Zealand to other parts of the world, because it's not going to be long before we see Qantas doing their direct London to Sydney and London to Melbourne routes. That's coming up in a year or two's time, I think. I think it's 2025 they're talking about for that. So I think this is going to be some really interesting marketing, and again with the aircraft that have the range to do this stuff in relative comfort as well. I think it's going to be a popular service.
Yeah, Captain Cruz makes that good point in the chat room, actually, Nev, that it doesn't matter what aircraft you're in, 737 MAX, 75, 78, A350, what counts as the class you're travelling in. Now, on these kind of routes, you're not going to get any fans of passengers going to be fans of your airline if you're cramming them in. I think that the way forward with these, Nev, is more premium economy and better standard of economy seating.
Yeah, and even with the lower cabin altitude in the aircraft, which does make this a bit more manageable, I think, doesn't it? But if you're crammed in economy, I think that's going to be hard work. But again, we need to do some test runs, I think, don't we? So let's see. And Rich Adams says in the chat room, Nev, there's 1A, then there's the rest. Well, I didn't want to say it. I'm glad you have, Richard. Thank you.
No, Nev, you're going to introduce the next part of the show. It's the fun part of the show each week.
Yes, and actually, what started off as just a a small bit of fun has turned into quite a popular segment, actually. We've been getting some fantastic feedback on this section. And this is the Caption This section of the show. And we put it up on our Facebook page. And we ask you to come up with the best possible caption and the most original and the funniest as well. I've got this week's one.
Yes. I'll pop this up here, Nev. Now, for the benefit of our audio listeners, Nev, what's going on here?
It's somebody's checked luggage that's been run over, or looks like it's been put into an RB211 engine, isn't it? It's not a good look. Although it has survived, actually. I mean, some bits are, some things of clothes are falling out, but yeah, it's a very. Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where you're going to make a claim. If that came off the conveyor belt, you'll be going to the luggage claim desk.
Now, Nev, do you want to kick things off with the first comment this week from Facebook?
Yeah, Stephen says, when the conveyor belt just wants the beer you brought to the PTUK 200th episode. I can't find the picture from after, but that bag fell off and got ate by the conveyor belt. Smelt like beer and had a huge rip.
Yes, he had that issue, didn't he, when he came to the 200th?
Yes,
yeah.
I've forgotten that. Yes.
Nicholas says Ryanair's new low-cost underwing luggage storage is proving to be a real drag.
Ben says, for sale, only used once. I know what I got.
John says, not our John, but John says, training video from Swissport Baggage Handling Training School goes viral.
Oh dear. Other handling companies are available,
They
of
are.
course. John says Alaska Air suspends trials of their replacement for sniffer dogs with sniffer bears after passenger left marmalade sandwich in their luggage. Disastrous consequences. That's one of the best so far, actually.
James says, thank you for choosing Mesa Airlines for all your travel needs.
James says, as I stepped off the airplane, I looked down at my suitcase and thought to myself, I made it. Just barely, but I made it. I'm never flying with Armando carry-on again. Oh, dear. That's hard. I mean, you have actually flown with him, Carlos, so you can confirm that he is perfectly safe and decent operator.
He is fantastic. He is our Armando.
And does agree, sir.
He does, yes. Oh, definitely, 100%. Chris says, I think I can get one more trip from the old crew bag.
They do. Look, in fact, this crew that I was... I didn't get a chance to talk to them, actually, this morning, but the JetBlue crew that were in the hotel, they've got some pretty old crew bags. I mean, you know, come on, guys and girls. I'm sure the company can do slightly better than what I saw this morning, but that is quite a thing, isn't it? That some of the crew bags that we get to see from the flight deck crew are a little bit second-hand, aren't they?
So what's Bill got, Nev?
Well, Bill says conclusive proof that the luggage's lifetime warranty did indeed have strings attached.
And our good friend Dirk says, at least it arrived on time. Very good.
Steve says, have you seen that Qantas video? Yeah, we can beat that. Excellent.
James says, this vintage bag was lost in the great COVID travel cluster of 2021. BA spokesman states it has since been returned to Neville Bounds.
Oh, well, how very true. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. But, Jason says, what happens when you hire Wolverine as a baggage handler?
And James says again, he says, it's not ruined, it's just distressed.
Yeah.
Yes.
David says, looks like you may need a new case manager.
Oh,
True.
James again. Well, James is getting right in with this.
Yeah.
The latest in fashion travel baggage, torn luggage to match your torn jeans. Vogue.
Yes. Jason says, we did warn you our new conveyor belt puppy was teething. That looks exactly like what's happened, doesn't it?
Now, Nev, you can take this last one.
Oh, yes. Simon says, a non-seat 1A's passenger's luggage. Oh, dear. I don't know. But
dear.
that was a really good one this week.
Oh, go on. What's...
Was that your choice, Carlos?
Yeah, that came up on. I follow many aviation sites on Instagram, and that came up on one of the. I think it was one of the flight attendants group sort of pages on Instagram that I follow, where that follows their travels all around different countries and stuff. And it was a picture that one of them had put on there, and I thought that's a really good picture to use for captioning this. So
no, absolutely. And we've got a few in the chat.
Oh, go on, Nev.
As always. Let's have a look. Let's start with Micah. Actually, he was commenting on the things I just mentioned. He said, I thought those flight attendants purchased high-quality luggage. Richard Adams says, baggage striking instead of the handlers. Captain Crew says, those sniffer dogs for drugs are becoming more and more rampant. Richard Adams also says, handle with wear. Good point.
Our main man Micah says, at least the guitar survived this time.
Yes.
Bye.
But so another top selection of your comments. Very
Thanks,
original
Nev.
and very funny, I thought.
Thanks, Nev. Thanks, Nev. Right, so Nev, Armando's not here. Obviously, he's not here with us, but he has sent us in some stuff for the military this week. So would you like to introduce this week's military segment?
As always, our favourite military person, in fact, our only military person, but his knowledge is second to none. And we love having him on the show. And when he's not here, we love the videos as well. So let's have a look at what's happening in the military this week.
What's up, Buggies 135, 50, Angel 16, heading 340. Okay, 100 Buggies.
Now, in our first story from defenseone.com, also from thedrive.com, it's something we've been tracking for a couple years now. The U.S. Army has finally chosen Bell to build its new aircraft that's eventually going to replace the venerable UH-60 Black Hawk, which has been flying soldiers since the 1970s. Bell received a $232 million contract this last Monday, which is what is the first installment of what could be a $7.1 billion US dollar deal for the development and an initial batch of aircraft. Doug Bush, the Army acquisition chief, said in a Monday evening call with reporters that it's a chance to move to the next step in this vital program. Now, it is a huge win for Bell that could be worth more than $70 billion for the Textron-owned company in the coming decades, depending on how many aircraft are actually ordered by the Army and its foreign military partners. Now, for Textron, this is a generational win that rejuvenates Bell's military franchise, according to investors. Bell, which pitched the V-280 tilt-rotor aircraft similar to the V-22 Osprey, beat the Sikorsky Boeing team that had proposed a coaxial helicopter, which uses two stacks of rotors that spin in opposite directions, providing a little bit more stability than traditional helicopters. Now, the tilt rotor can take off and land vertically like a helicopter, but then rotate its propellers forward, allowing it to fly at fixed-wing aircraft speeds, as we've seen with the V-22 Ospreys. Now, Bell said in an official statement that the V-280's unmatched combination of proven tilt-rotor technology coupled with the innovative digital engineering and open architecture offers the Army an outstanding operational versatility for its vertical lift fleet. Now, the contract awarded on Monday is actually for a virtual prototype, not an actual aircraft, according to Army officials. The initial prototype could come sometime in 2025, but the Army would actually need to award additional contracts before that happens. Army officials did tout the speed at which the award was made, saying that it has been accelerated by some 4 years. Over the past 9 years, both bidders built and flew demonstrators of their proposals. Now, Bush from Bell said that they had taken Mr. Bush from the Army said that they had taken new authorities from Congress, and they had melded them with very thoughtful, very deliberate approaches in terms of trying out things before proceeding and doing things in terms of the program structure that allow them to move at greater speed than originally planned to get this capability in the hands of soldiers. Now, officials declined to give specific reasons as to why they chose Bell over Sikorsky Boeing, other than that the Bell proposal was quoted as best value. The losing companies actually have 3 days to request a debriefing from the Army about their decision. After that briefing, they have the option to protest the Army's decision. If they do protest, then the Government Accountability Office, or the GIO, would conduct a review and make a new ruling. Sikorsky and Boeing said in a joint statement that they remain confident that the Defiant X design is the transformational aircraft that the U.S. Army requires in order to accomplish its complex missions today and well into the future. And that they're going to evaluate their next steps after reviewing that feedback from the Army. Bell first unveiled the V-280 in 2013. Unlike its predecessor, the V-22, the engines at the end of its wings are fixed, a move that is supposed to lower maintenance costs. Now, the Army calls the replacement deal the Future Long Range Assault Aircraft, or FLRAA, and they are expecting that to be a mix of FLRAA aircraft as well as some UH-60 aircraft for some decades to come. So, final decision seems to have been made, and looks like the V-280, another tilt rotor, has won out.
Thanks for that, Armando. As always, great work. And I'll tell you what, Nev, one of my favourite films, I don't know whether you've seen this film, it's a few years old now, but I think it's been out on either Amazon Video or Netflix, was Black Hawk Down. Do you remember that video from years ago?
Yes, yeah. What I didn't realise was that, just reading what Armando's written here, Bell first unveiled the V-280 in 2013.
Oh,
that's nearly 10 years ago. Extraordinary, isn't it? Good win there. And whatever you think about the reasons for it, it's business and jobs for people, which has to be a good thing, doesn't it?
Certainly is. And Armando's got another story in the military this week, and it's all about the F-22s.
This next military story is from BreakingDefense.com. In Washington, after years of fighting back, the Congress is finally allowing the U.S. Air Force to part ways with a portion of its A-10 Warthog fleet, approving the service's plan to retire 21 A-10s in fiscal year 2023. Now, while it's unclear whether this means that the Air Force will be successful in future attempts to send the A-10 to the boneyard, the retirement of even a portion of the Warthog fleet, in this case, the squadrons from Fort Wayne Air National Guard Base in Indiana, which will eventually get F-16s, is a massive step forward for the service. That service has been locked in a debate with Congress over the future of the ground attack plane, the A-10, for over a decade. The fiscal year 23 National Defense Authorization Act, which was released this week, wasn't all good news for the Air Force's ambitious divestment plan, with House and Senate authorizers prohibiting the Air Force, from mothballing 33 of its oldest F-22 Block 20 Raptors, which we talked about a couple months ago on the show that they were already wanting to do. Air Force leaders have said that those jets are not combat capable and will cost an estimated $1.8 billion over the next 8 years to operate. However, Congress's defense of the current F-22 inventory was emphatic, with lawmakers including language that prohibit aircraft divestment, along with any drop in funding for personnel and sustainment from 2023 to 2026. Now, while the National Defense Authorization Act does not require the Air Force to upgrade its Block 20 F-22s, it does call for reports on the costs associated with upgrading those jets to Block 30-35 configuration, and what does the future F-22 pilot training look like. Now, during fiscal year 2023, the Air Force planned to divest upwards of 260 aircraft across multiple fleets, including some that had been previously conveyed to Congress in previous years, as we, I think, talked about just about 2 months ago on the show. Now, lawmakers were largely content to allow the Air Force to move forward with a majority of these proposed aircraft retirements with some strings attached for certain aircraft types. Now, the compromise NDAA actually allows the Air Force to lower its total fighter aircraft inventory from 1,970 to 1,800, which clears the way for the service to divest some 26 F-16s, some 67 F-15s as requested. However, House and Senate authorizers included languages that the forces that the Air Force to provide a report on how planned F-15 divestments would actually impact current operations before they actually mothball those aircraft. Now, Congress took a phased approach for the E-3 Sentry airborne warning and control aircraft, better known as AWACS. The Air Force wanted to retire 15 of the 31 AWACS in its inventory. The NDAA, or Congress, only allows the service to draw down to a total aircraft inventory of 26 airplanes in fiscal year 23. But further aircraft could be retired if the Air Force meets certain criteria. For instance, the service can reduce its inventory to 21 AWACS if it submits an acquisition strategy for the E3 successor, the E7 Wedgetail. If it takes further action and awards a contract to Boeing for the Wedgetail, then it can draw down to an inventory of 18 AWACS. Also, in the National Defense Authorization Act was the retirement of some 12 Blackhawks. They're being replaced by the new HH-60W, the Jolly Green 2. There's also some retirements for some E-8s. The 50 T-1 Jayhawk aircraft are being retired. That's the aircraft we talked about just a few weeks ago that student pilots go into bomber transport and tanker pilots are going to. Those will be retired. And that's kind of paving the way, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, to just keep the T-6 Texan as their primary trainer. Some other additional aircraft that will be divested in this NDAA fiscal 23 will be 10 KC-10s and about 13 KC-135s. And then we did a story a couple months ago now about the divestment of EC-130H Compass Call electronic aircraft and the EC-130J Commando Solo, which we did a story about it doing its final broadcast over an air show in Pennsylvania. So this may be new to some of our listeners from around the world, but our Congress, the Senate and the House, actually controls the entire U.S. military is civilian controlled. There are civilians as service secretaries, so the top position in each military service is a civilian, and then there's a very close tie between Congress and the military. And while the military makes these proposals essentially every year, but really about every 4 years with a quadrennial defense review, Congress does maintain and retain a lot of control over what the services actually do with their, not just aircraft, but if you're talking about ground forces for the Army or boats for the Navy. This is just this year. The reason I chose the story is because it's a pretty big announcement, pretty big retirement. Almost 170 aircraft being retired in the year 2020, in the upcoming fiscal year 2023. So we'll keep an eye out.
Thanks for that, Armando. Fantastic work as always. And I have to say, for me personally, I prefer the F-22. I don't know what it is. I've always preferred the look of the F-22.
Oh.
I'm not a military person, as you all know. I love my commercial stuff, but I just think when you look at the F-22 and the F-35 side by side, the F-22 just looks, I don't know, better. But yeah, that's my opinion anyway. How about you, Nev?
Well, I don't really have an opinion.
I've gone military.
Because it's military, and therefore I am not qualified to speak on the subject.
Now, this week, Nev, moving on with a little additional extra to the military news this week. Nev, there was a incident this week, wasn't there, with an F-35?
Yeah. Now, this could have ended badly, of course, but it does show you that the good old ejector seats work from either when you're flying the aircraft or when you're on the ground, and a good example of how it saved somebody's life.
So we'll play that. We'll
look at it.
play the video now, shall we? Here we go.
So he's actually hovering down to landing, and you think it's all going quite nicely, and then suddenly, just in the last sort of, well, actually it bounces, isn't it? And then it goes onto its nose, breaks the front landing gear, and then pivots around.
Little pirouette.
And you think that it's all okay at that point, and obviously the pilot doesn't think it's okay at that point, and he decides to pull the handle and ejects. So I was thinking a bit earlier whether it was a bit premature with that. You know, he could have stuck with it a bit longer, but of course I was not in the aircraft at the time, and he might have had a whole series of, you know, fire warnings and all sorts of things going off, and you don't know how much fuel he had on board. So I think he probably made the right decision. And let's hope he gets a Martin Baker tie, if it was a Martin Baker ejector seat.
Exactly. So, Nev, last part of the show then before we wrap things up, it's a giveaway prize time. We're going to make an effort of giving away a book every month, or every so often we're going to give away a book.
Yes, every month.
And every month, yeah, Nev's got a pile to give away, and this is a special one. This one's been signed. Now, Nev, obviously everyone's been watching this series that we've been running over the last 3 weeks, and we have on the show 3 or 4 weeks on the show. A little bit of backstory just in case anyone's not seen it yet. And what's it about, Nev?
Yeah, well, we went down to White Waltham Aerodrome, just near to Maidenhead, and our good friend Nick Anderson, as he does an excellent job of doing interviews. And of course, he actually flew or was based at the same RAF station as Rick Peacock Edwards. And this is a quick still of the day in question. And it was very foggy there as well, unfortunately, so that some of the backdrop on the video is not perfect. But we are
loving the cameras, Nev.
A real a playlist in our YouTube feed as well. And we have here a book which I've mentioned before. It's called Nat Boys. It's written by Rick Peacock Edwards and Tom Eales. And Rick has very kindly signed it for us as well. So the question from last week was, during their military careers, Rick and Nick were based at 2 different RAF stations at the same time in the UK, which is where they originally met. And the question is, what 2 RAF stations were they? The answer is RAF Lucas and RAF Valley. And Carlos now has the random generator called his cap, and he will now
just pop that on the fire there.
Yeah, well, don't do that.
No,
otherwise
no,
we'll burn the answers.
I've got
in there. You have the correct answers, don't you?
Yes, you can probably see I've got the answers in here. I'm going to be pulling one out. I'm going to look away. I'm going to turn away. I'm going to pull all these numbers here. There's one here. Look, a name there, and we're going to pull out this name. Hold on, let me put my hat down somewhere.
Moment of high tension.
Make sure I don't knock the faders here.
Yeah, don't do that.
There we go. And the winner of the signed book there, if you can see that on the camera,
it's Richard Adams.
Is Richard Adams.
Well, what a player. Excellent. So, Richard.
Well done, Richard.
Do me a quick favour. Send me your address and I will post you this book tomorrow. Now, bit of a postal strike at the moment, so you might not get it before Christmas, but I'll do my best. I will send you a copy of the signed book from Rick. Well done, and thanks very much indeed to everybody that entered the competition. So yeah, that'll be on its way to you tomorrow, sir. Well done.
Well done, Richard. Well done.
Yeah.
You see, if you play, you win. It's one of those things. Get the questions right. We did have a few incorrect answers, didn't we, Nev?
Yes, and one of them is one of my good friends as well that came up with an incorrect answer. I had to tell him that he that was not the correct answer. I had to do a Ken Bruce on him, so but there we go. So but anyone can enter this, so anyone that's listening on the podcast itself, the download, or the YouTube live, whatever, it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, we'll post books to wherever you are in the world, to your home address.
Very true. And another book coming up very soon, so keep your eyes on the show. Now, for those of you who may not know, this is our last live show of 2022. I know, I'm sorry guys and girls, but it is our last show of 2022. We'll be back on the 6th of January with live shows starting again, but we still have 2 more great shows to go this year, so don't go anywhere. We're going to be releasing our Christmas special, which we just very recently recorded with special guests on the show, and that's going to be, hopefully, all being well, will be released on Christmas Day. So when the kids are busy throwing toys around your room, or your wife is busy throwing pigs in blankets across the kitchen, you can move into the front room or your office and put PTUK on and watch our special Christmas show. Loads of fun we had in that as well. And also in the Christmas show, we have got a very special competition as well in the Christmas show to win some fantastic plane tags, which are quite distinct plane tags, I think, aren't they, Nev? So you've got a chance of winning those. That'll be in the Christmas show. The questions will be in the Christmas show as well. All the details will be in the Christmas show. So make sure you stay tuned to that on Christmas Day. And then we've got one more show after that before we end the new year, or end the year, I should say, and start the new year back on the 6th of January. So, Nev, social media links, just in case anyone has lost us in the ether.
Yes, if you didn't know, Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, we're all on those platforms. Just search for Plain Talking UK. Our WhatsApp number, +44 757 224 9166. That's +44 757 224 9166. You can email the show, podcast@plaintalkinguk.com, and our website is all the W's, plaintalkinguk.com. Our YouTube channel, of course, is got a lot of content on there, all the shows and some special playlists of the interviews that we've done, and you'll get notifications when we go live, of course, as well. Just search for Plain Talking UK in youtube.com. On our website, there is an Amazon link. So if you do your shopping through Amazon, we get paid a small referral fee if you would like to do that through our website. Just look for the Amazon link on our website. Also, if you would like to help support the show, which many of you do, and we're very grateful for it, there's Patreon and PayPal opportunities as well for you to do so. Just have a look at the website and you'll find the details on there. But hard to believe, isn't it, Carlos? It's the last live show of the year, and where the heck has the year gone?
the year has flown by, Nev. We've had a really good year this year, especially with the interviews, especially that you and Nick went out and done, have been fantastic, well received as well. So big congratulations on your hard work on those, Nev. You've done very well indeed.
Well, thanks, and it's everybody's effort that goes into these things. And we'll be having one of our meetings early in the new year to discuss what air shows we're going to try and cover, what interviews we would like to do, and if you've got any things that you'd like us to cover perhaps next year, drop us a line as well, because we're interested in getting your feedback as to the kind of things you would like us to see us do, within certain limitations, obviously. But podcast@plaintalkinguk.com if you would like to send us some suggestions as to some of the content you'd like to see us do next year.
Now, don't forget the military mugs, the grey mugs, are on the website now for you to purchase. As we said at the top of the show, there's been quite a few flying off the shelves into people's homes soon, hopefully. If you do order one now, bear in mind that we have got issues in the UK at the moment with the various postal services here, so they may take a little longer to get to you if you're ordering them in here in the UK to be delivered in the UK, but we'll try and get them out to you as soon as we can if you order your military grey mug or your P2UK mug as well, all available on the website, as well as our glorious cotton T-shirts with the embroidered logos that are still available on the website. If you've not already grabbed one of those, we'll get them out to you as soon as we can. So that is where we're going to start to wrap up episode number 438 of the show. Thanks to everyone in the chat room who's joined us this evening. Thanks to everyone for tuning in and watching us do the live show. It's our last show, as we said, of 2022, but we will be back next year with a fresh show on the 6th of January. And don't forget that Christmas show coming up on Christmas Day with the chance to win some awesome plane tags. You honestly, when you guys see them, you will very much enjoy the plane tags, because there are some quite interesting tags we've got on offer as prizes there. So more info on that on the Christmas show. So that's it then. Thanks to all our audio downloaders of the show, and everyone who has tuned in as well. Don't forget, stay tuned to P2UK and join us next year for more great content on the show. So Nev, I'm going to hand things over to you to end tonight's final live show of 2022.
Well, thanks, Carlos. Yeah, I just want to say to everybody, thanks ever so much indeed for being such loyal viewers and listeners throughout the year. I mean, we really couldn't do it without you being there, and for those that contribute as well. We're really grateful for all that. So that's been absolutely fantastic. Where has the year gone? It's just gone so quickly this year, hasn't it? But we shall be back for the Christmas special and for our next live show, which will be on the 6th of January. In the meantime, from Carlos and myself, I hope you have a great weekend and a fantastic Christmas and New Year. All the very best. Bye for now.
Bye.
There we go.
They still want Matt to do the parachute jump, Nev.
What? Yes, that's a good point, isn't it? That's a good point. Yes. How are we going to convince him to do that?
I know.
Or maybe we don't need to convince him. We'll just turn up one day at, an airfield and just say, oh, we're going to do an interview, Matt. And then the next thing he knows, he's
do what they used to do
out
on
of a perfectly serviceable aircraft.
I was going to say, do what they used to do on AA team and just say, oh, Matt, would you like this glass of milk to drink?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, wakes up on a plane.
Just got to thank our listeners and viewers. Thank you, Richard. That's very nice of you to say that. He says, thanks for a great set of shows this year. Somehow they still keep getting better. I know. How is that even possible? But
especially when I'm in the studio.
Well, I didn't like to say that, but no, it's all about the content. It's about the fantastic job that John does, getting all the content together every week, and then we rely on our viewers and listeners to come up with stories and suggestions, and then we get the chance to do some interviews throughout the year and also some air shows. So we're going to try and do some more air shows next year as well. We're already booked in to do the Jersey Air Show again.
We have
later in the year. That's going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to that. Flights and hotels already booked. And we had such a great time last time. There was sort of no hesitation from us really in going back. We haven't actually asked them if we can go back, but I'm hoping they'll say yes. I'm sure we can
talk our way. Yeah, talk our way to that.
Especially that nice fella, Jonathan from Swissport.
Yes.
He was so accommodating.
Yes.
That was fantastic, wasn't it? It's all about the people, isn't it? It's nothing without the people, the fixers and the people that can assist you. So, no.
Also, we didn't say it either, did we, before we finished? But hopefully, fingers crossed, next year it won't be just the air shows we're gonna attend. We're hopefully going to arrange some more meetups next year. So we're going to hopefully get some stuff together and possibly do another meetup at Duxford in the summertime, all being well, and get together and sort of meet up with you guys in Duxford, and we'll try and arrange something as well a bit further north. Do you think, Nev? Somewhere?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
No, we'll try and do a few more regional things around the country if we possibly can. That'll be great. I think we've got a lot in the planning sort of pot, and it's just a question of working out what we can do and how we can do it, basically. But
Richard Adams is saying, Nev, Jersey meetup perhaps, quite fancy a holiday after 5 years.
What a good idea! That's a nice idea, isn't it? Yeah, we could accommodate that quite easily, I think, because we'll already be there. So that'll be absolutely brilliant. So no, it's one of those things that it was our first go at Jersey last year, and it could not have gone better. We got so much content, but also the organisers and the folks involved were just brilliant. And we've been here before, haven't we, Carlos? Where we've had really good assistance from people at air shows, and they've really made it for us, helping us organise interviews and getting the right people there. So it's really important.
Captain Cruz is saying, is there a recorded show on the 30th? I think, are we doing a bits and pieces show for the 30th?
I think we probably will be, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Christmas show, like I said, will be on, hopefully, release Christmas Day morning. So that'll be obviously ready for everyone to watch and enjoy. I think I might even tune in Christmas Day, Nev.
Oh.
Over a mulled cider.
Yes. Well, I think you are allowed to have Christmas Day off if you don't want to do that.
Okay,
so.
yeah, I might have Christmas Day, but I'll be at my dad's for Christmas for the first time in 20 odd years.
Oh
so.
Gosh, yeah.
I should be enjoying myself Christmas Day. But Dad is a big fan of the show, thankfully, so which is good. He's actually, fun enough, before we wrap up the show completely, Nev, I will just say, Dad has been a legend because he's helped me trying to arrange some sort of fixing to enable me to mount that RB211 fan blade on the wall in the home studio at home, because it's not light.
No, and these more modern houses, don't have very good fixing points, do they, for some of this stuff?
No.
I know it from our own house here. Just trying to put curtains up is hard work, let alone an RB211 fan blade.
Yeah, he sent me a list tonight of different specific fixings to purchase to enable me to mount them on the plasterboard wall. So
we're using your Screwfix account.
I shall be using. Yes. So hopefully, come the new year, because part of the deal was that if I got the RB211 blade for Christmas, that I agreed that I would redecorate my home office studio. Yeah. Silly thing I said. Why did I say that?
Well,
anyway,
it's time for us to go.
Yes, it is. Nev's had a very, very long evening and like yesterday, and he's going to hop off to the land of dreams now. So, on that note, Nev, I'm going to leave the last words to you. So, I'm going to say goodbye, chat room. Thanks for joining us, and take care. Have a great Christmas, everyone, and we'll see you in January. And over to you, Nev.
Yeah, thanks ever so much indeed for that, Carlos, and for everybody that's listened and viewed this year. We really couldn't do this show without you and your contributions and your loyalty. So thank you very much indeed. Have a great time over Christmas, won't you? And we shall enjoy the rest, and I hope you enjoy the Christmas show and the highlight show as well. So take care of yourselves. Bye for now.